Okay, again, I'm Kevin Nelson. I'm here with my aunt, Helen Ormesher, and it's October 7th, 2010. And I was asking my aunt about her experience during the Great Depression of the 30s and about her impression of that time, some of the vivid memories she has, and some of the ways that her and her family would find ways to make ends meet when the economy was in such deep trouble. So enough of me talking, Helen. I'm very interested in any reflections, vivid memories you have of that time of your life.
Okay. Well, my folks had a ranch out of Wood Lake, and I went to town to school, to high school, and I would get home only on Thanksgiving and Christmas,
Uh-huh.
and I would get pretty lonesome for my folks. Anyway, I worked my way through school.
Uh-huh.
I would do ironings for people, and I worked in a cafe at noon and at night and on Saturdays and Sundays. So I kind of worked my way through school, and I graduated in 1938, and there was only 8 in our class. I wasn't valedictorian, but I had a lot of fun. I was librarian, I was cheerleader, and I had a good time. I enjoyed my life, and I had a good life from then. And I went to a group of us went to a dance in Johnstown, and I was sitting there and talking to my friend, and Jim and another guy was there, and I said, I wonder who those guys are. And I said, I kind of like the looks of that one guy. I wish he'd dance with me. And he came and asked me to dance.
Uh-huh.
And from then on, we started going together, and we were married. I had a very, very wonderful marriage. Jim was a wonderful, wonderful person. He was so good to his family and wonderful to me.
Uh-huh.
And I had very good memories. And of course, I lost him and I lost Janice. And I believe that I was more upset over Janice than I was over Jim, because Jim was awfully sick. And I really prayed for him to go because he was suffering so bad. And Janice was such a shock because we didn't know there was anything the matter with her.
Uh-huh.
And she didn't know she had cancer until the very last.
Uh-huh.
And Rusty called me, and he said Janice had gone into surgery, and everything was just fine, and they got all the cancer. And the next morning he called, and she was gone. And that was a terrible, terrible shock.
Yes.
Just a terrible shock.
Yes.
And it was awful hard. But I said, after all, I wouldn't want her back suffering with cancer. And I schooled myself to think, just don't be selfish. She's where she isn't suffering.
Uh-huh.
And that's the only thing that got me through.
Yeah.
It comes real often to me, but I just think I'm so glad she isn't home to suffer with cancer,
Yes.
because I guess she was pretty well full of cancer.
Yes. Yeah.
So-
Yeah. Well,
So that's the way I guess that's the way I've gone through life, is being thankful for what I have and thanking God for all his kindness. He's been so good to me.
Yes.
And when I decided I was going to sell my house in Wood Lake and move, I just said, God, I don't know what I'm doing, but you know, and you take over. And everything just fell in place, and I found this place to live. And the lady that lived here before was smoked and caught the carpet on fire. And oh, it smelled so terrible.
Uh-huh.
And when they brought me up here, this was the only place I could find, and I had sold my house. And so I had to take it. And my grandson said, oh, Grandma, you can't live in there. And I said, yes, I can. And I did.
Well, it looks impeccable now.
Very, very comfortable.
Yes. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Let's, if I could, ask that you indulge me in life in the 30s, and what was it more difficult than say later, say than in the 40s or 50s?
Oh,
Or
the 30s was awful for me.
okay.
I went to school, I had 2 dresses,
Uh-huh.
and that's it. And
Wow.
1 pair of shoes all winter,
Oh
and that
boy.
was it.
Oh
And I
boy.
worked my way through school.
Yeah.
And the 30s was rough. Nobody had anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my mother, of course, my folks lived on the ranch, and they'd go to town and buy feed. And they got to putting pretty materials in the feed.
Right.
And Mom would say, now, get 1 yard for Helen, because I was always so small,
Uh-huh.
and 2 yards for Ethel. And
Okay.
she would sew up those dresses and put rickrack on them and lace, and that's what we got to wear.
Yeah.
That's what we had to wear.
Yeah. So the only thing you would get that was factory made would be your shoes,
Yes.
and maybe
And that's
some
one a year.
undergarments maybe.
Never a good pair of shoes.
Yeah. Yeah. They'd have to
Just 1 pair of shoes.
heavy sole.
Well, nobody had anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It was just a bad
And
time.
now you mentioned that you had to work, and what would you have to purchase? What would you when you made your money that you would make at the cafe and so forth? Would you have to purchase your own food and pay your own room and board?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so not only did you,
$5 a month.
is that right? So you'd have to pay your own room and board.
My mother and my folks usually paid my board,
Okay.
but I had to do my own thing. And when I worked at the cafe, I got my dinner and supper.
Oh, okay. So that made a big difference. Right. Right.
And I would do a ironing on a Saturday for people, and I'd get $5.
That would be a lot of money.
Yes.
Yeah. And what would
And I really learned to iron.
I could imagine. and getting back to it now. Oops. Here, I'll let you catch that.